Okay, thank you everyone. I'm really excited to be here. So happy to be in Rome, and RomHack is it's such a fantastic event. So I'm really happy to talk here. So today I'm going to talk about a research that I did in and the vulnerability I found in Active Directory. Okay, something. Okay, we're good. But before we start the talk, I found this vulnerability while doing research on dMSA. And a few years ago, I also did a research on gMSA. Now, I can now say that I understand a thing or two about how managed service accounts work. But the one thing that I couldn't figure out was why the D in dMSA and the G in gMSA are lowercase. And really, I asked a ton of people about it, and it really bothered me, but I couldn't get an answer that actually satisfied me. So I'm telling you this story because if at some point during the presentation you will stop for a moment and ask yourself why it is written that way, I have no clue. So yeah. So I'm Yuval Gordon. I'm a security researcher at Akamai Technologies. And in the last decade or so, I've been doing different roles in cybersecurity. And the one domain that I keep coming back to is identity research and Active Directory. And in Akamai, I'm doing offensive research. So this is how I got to this research. That is my X handle here. So feel free to follow me or to reach out after the talk. So our agenda for today, we are going to start with a quick introduction to service accounts. Then I'm going to do a deep dive to dMSA. I'm going to explain exactly where I found the vulnerability. Now here we have a little spoiler, but BadSuccessor was patched. So I'm going to talk about about BadSuccessor, about what it was before the patch. But then I will also talk about what it is after the patch. So don't worry, BadSuccessor, I think at least that BadSuccessor is still a thing. So it will be worth to listen. So, so we start with a quick introduction to service accounts. And there is this story that Elad Shamir, who is, I think, the VP research at SpecterOps. He has some talks about Kerberos, and in his talks he starts with this story that I really love, in which he explains some concepts in Kerberos. Now I will just summarize the relevant parts for us. So in his story there is this amusement park, and in this amusement park there are a lot of visitors, and every visitor, once they enter the park, they get a daily ticket, which in Kerberos we can translate it to TGT. Now, in the park we have a lot of rides. So we have a cool roller coaster, and we have a Ferris wheel, and those rides are like services in Kerberos. So our organization maybe will have a web server and a database and stuff like that. And when a visitor wants to get on a ride, they need a ticket for that specific ride. So it's not enough to have a daily ticket. The visitor now needs to go to the ticket office and request a ticket for the specific ride. And once the ticket office will give them a ticket for that ride, and now they need to go to the ride operator, which is like a service account, which is the main focus of our talk, and they will go to the ride operator with the ticket that they got and present it, and the ride operator will need to validate it. So the ticket will have some information about the user. It will also include maybe the visitor height and age, and the different subscriptions that the user is related to. And maybe this is like a premium ride that only VIP members can get on. So it's up to the right operator, the service account, to validate it. And in Active Directory, we have two types of service accounts. We have the legacy service account, which is it's legacy. It's not that secure. It has some security risk involved, and one of the most major point is that those type of accounts are a target to an attack called Kerberos sting. And in 2008 and 2012, Microsoft introduced managed service account and dMSA, which is group managed service account. Now, we don't really care about the differences from the two, like MSA and gMSA. So I will just refer to both of them as MSA. But the point is that they solve the security problems related to legacy service accounts. But here we are more than a decade after Microsoft introduced MSA, and I'm still talking about legacy service account. So that is because organizations today still uses legacy service accounts, and it's not because of the organization. It's not that they just don't want to upgrade. It's because that, well, we have two most relevant problems because on why organizations don't still use a legacy service account, sorry. So the first one is that MSA are just not fully supported. So in order for us to configure a service to run with an MSA, the service has to support it. And because some services just don't support it, we have a problem. And the second problem is that even if the service does support MSA, it will take a lot of time for the IT team to actually configure the service, to actually configure a service with an MSA after it was configured with legacy service account, because they need to take like to see the permissions are the same, and that the Kerberos configurations are the same and stuff like that. So it takes time and effort. But luckily for us, just recently in 2025, Microsoft introduced dMSA, which stands for Delegated Managed Service Account. Now, dMSA is brand new. It has all of the advantages that the old MSA had, but this time the IT team can just lay back and relax, because there is a really cool new migration process that lets IT teams just take one account, a legacy service account, and migrate it into a dMSA. All of the services that used the legacy service account will now use the dMSA, and the IT team doesn't need to take care of anything, and it doesn't matter if the service supports MSA or not, it will still work. So that is pretty amazing. And so I wanted to look at how this migration process actually worked, because it sounded really good. So we can actually split the migration process into 3 phases. So we need to start the migration, then we need to wait, and then we can complete the migration. Now, before I will talk about each of them, let's see how authentication looks like before we start the migration. So I have an SQL server, and this server is running an SQL service, and I've configured this service to run with a legacy service account. So when the service will need to authenticate in the domain, it will send an authentication request with SVC SQL, which is the name of my legacy user, and the DC will respond with a TGT. So, okay, we can now start a migration. I created a new dMSA. I called it dMSA $, and I just started a migration, and what happens is that the two accounts are being linked. So each of them will have an attribute pointing to the other object. And the second thing that will happen in this stage is that SVC SQL, the legacy service account, will be granted write access on a certain permission on the dMSA. Now, this attribute is pretty important. What it does, it controls who can authenticate as the dMSA. So in the next slide, I will explain why the SVC SQL, the legacy service account, need this access on the dMSA. So now we have started the migration, and the service needs to authenticate once again. So it sends an authentication request just as before, but this time it will receive a different reply, because it will receive a TGT, but it will also have an additional information, which says this user is going to be superseded by dMSA dollar. Now, when the Kerberos client, which is what handles the Kerberos for the SQL server, when the Kerberos client will receive this message, it will automatically send an LDAP command to request the DC to allow SQL SRV, which is the current server we are working on, to authenticate as the dMSA. Now, it does that with the attribute that I talked about in the previous slide, because we gave SQL SRV, SVC SQL the permissions to control the attribute. They can now allow SQL SRV to authenticate as the dMSA. This is the purpose of the waiting phase, because we want to make sure that every server that is currently using the legacy service account will have access to authenticate as the dMSA once the migration has been completed. So now we wait for about a week, and then we can complete the migration, and when we do that, the legacy service account will be disabled, and some Kerberos configurations will be copied to the dMSA. Now, when the server will need to authenticate, once again, it will issue an authentication request, but this time it will receive an error. The error will have additional information which says that this user was superseded by dMSA dollar. Now, when the Kerberos client will see this message, it will automatically request to authenticate as the dMSA, as dMSA dollar. And because it appears on the attribute that controls who can authenticate as the dMSA, it will work, and we are authenticated as dMSA dollar. So this is pretty cool, and almost everything that I just showed you is from Microsoft documentation about dMSA. But there was this one thing that was missing. It sounds like there is a really cool new migration process, and it takes care of everything, but the documentation didn't mention privileges at all. And if we have this cool migration process that takes care of everything, what is going on with privileges? We want to make sure that the new dMSA will have access to everything that the old account had. So if we look at how privileges looks like in Kerberos, so we have a structure that is called the pack, which we have in Kerberos tickets. So the pack have some information about the user, and it will also hold a list of every group that the user is a member of. So we'll have the user and all of the groups that they are a member of. And I have created a new dMSA, and I started the migration, and I completed the migration, and now I checked, and the dMSA is not a member of any group. So I expected the dMSA pack to look like this, but when I checked, it wasn't actually the case. So I guess what happens is that Microsoft engineers have to watch Dragon Ball, because in order to solve this problem, they too knew that when a problem is just too big, there is only one solution, which is fusion. Yeah, so good thing we are in the Cyber Science Association. So, when the DC got a request when I authenticated as the dMSA, the DC needs to build a pack. So at first it built a pack for the dMSA just as usual, and the pack was pretty empty. But then it also checked if this dMSA is superseding another account. And because it is, it also built a pack for the other account, for SVC SQL, and then just merged the two. So this is pretty cool. When I saw it, I was pretty shocked because I was not aware of any mechanism in Active Directory that just lets you take privileges of one account, give it to another, and that's it. You don't have to change group membership. You don't need to do anything. So this is really cool. And I wanted to know if I can abuse it, if this is abusable. So spoiler alert, it is. But in order to explain it, I need to go back on how we actually start a migration. So in order to start a migration, we need to execute this PowerShell commandlet. And if we will try to execute it as a non-domain admin, because we want to abuse it, it will just fail. And it doesn't matter if we have control over the dMSA and the service account. It doesn't matter on who we have access if we are not a domain admin. So in order to understand why it fails, we need to understand what this PowerShell commandlet is doing. And what it does, it is just a wrapper for this LDAP root DSC operation. So, so this is just a request that is being sent to the DC to invoke some functionality. So I wanted to try and manually send this request as a non-domain admin. But again, it failed. So at this point, I checked, and apparently there is a verification on the DC to see if the caller is privileged enough to make this call. And because the caller is not a domain admin, they can't call it, and therefore we just fail. But when the DC does get this command, all it does is just changing some attributes. So at this point, I thought, okay, maybe I can just manually change the attributes myself and not go through this migration process. And it worked. So if we have control over a dMSA, we can link this dMSA into any account and get their privileges. It doesn't matter if we have control over the target account or not. And that is basically it. So this is BadSuccessor. And here is an attack flow of an attacker that has a control over a dMSA, and they want to acquire a domain admin privileges. So all they need to do is to simulate a dMSA migration. They need to link the dMSA to a domain admin. Then they will need to authenticate as the dMSA, and the DC will just grant them domain admin privileges. So this is pretty cool, but there is a problem here because, as I said, dMSA is brand new. Most organizations don't use dMSA. So this is a huge problem. If we are an attacker and we are in a domain, probably they don't have dMSA, so we can't use that. And the second problem is that even if they do have dMSA, by default dMSA are being created in a specific container called Managed Service Account container. Now, this container is highly restrictive, and only highly privileged accounts like domain admin have control over it. So even if the domain is using dMSA, we will probably don't have control over it. But luckily for attackers, as it turns out, dMSAs can be created in OUs as well. So OU is an organizational unit. It's like a folder in Active Directory. And while creating a dMSA in the Managed Service Account container is hard, creating it in any OU and achieving access over any OU is, I'd say, much easier. So our fixed attack flow is that we have an attacker that has a control over any OU, and they can just create a dMSA. So now they will create a dMSA there, and will do the flow just as before. So this is a demo for that. We are running as a weak user. We are trying to add ourselves to domain admins, but we fail. Then we see that we have permissions to create objects in an OU called temp. So we are going to use it and create a dMSA there. Now we will link the dMSA to the administrator account. And now we need to authenticate as the dMSA. I will use Rubius for that. So now we are authenticated as the dMSA. And we try to add ourselves to domain admins. Once again, this time we succeed as we are running with administrator privileges. Thank you. So I've reported this vulnerability to Microsoft, which agreed that this is indeed a vulnerability. They said, however, that the vulnerability severity is moderate. They said it therefore does not meet their bar for immediate servicing. And they also said that even though that this is a moderate severity, it will be fixed in the future, and it was actually fixed on August 12. So I think 4 months after I reported it. So kudos to Microsoft. But the story doesn't end here. So when I first started the research, I saw this structure. So this structure holds the Kerberos keys for the dMSA. It holds both the current Kerberos keys and the previous ones. Now, Kerberos keys are basically like the password hash, right? So when we authenticate as the dMSA and get a TGT, this TGT will hold this structure, which again holds the current Kerberos keys and the previous one. Now, I saw it and I actually didn't give it any attention. I didn't thought that it means anything, and I just went on. But then when I did a demo, I saw this response. So this is the decoded response of the structure that we just saw. And here you can see that we have the current keys on top and the previous keys on the bottom. Now, a weird thing that at the time I didn't recognize is that we have something in previous keys. And this is a dMSA that I have just created and migrated and, well, simulated a migration and linked it to administrator. This user doesn't have a previous password. It's pretty weird that it has previous keys, but at the moment, I didn't recognize it. The thing that actually caught my eye was the value in previous keys. So when I saw it, I immediately knew that this is an NTLM hash of a specific password, and it's not usually that I just recognize NTLM hash and I know the password. I'm not that weird, but this is the NTLM hash of a specific password. This is the NTLM hash of this password, which I always use in my lab environments. So I also configured administrator with this password. And as it turns out, when I linked the dMSA to administrator, I didn't only get the privileges of administrator, I also got their credentials. So that means BadSuccessor can be used to just dump credentials from both users and computers in the domain. Now, I did a tweet about it in which I show that I'm running a script. Yeah, okay. I'm running a script, and it will just dump credentials of users in the domain, including Kirby TGT, which I think is the most critical user in the domain. Now I'm showing you this tweet because there was this one comment that I really loved. So seems quite moderate. Yeah, so this is, as it turns out, not that important. And that is the end of BadSuccessor before the patch. And now now we will move on to BadSuccessor after the patch. So, as I said, in August, Microsoft sent me a message. They said that BadSuccessor has been assigned a CVE, and that they will be releasing a patch in the upcoming days. Now, when they sent me this message, I had an idea, or at least that's what I thought, about how they will fix it. And in order to understand my thought, we need to go back a couple of slides. So in this slide, I talked about the LDAP RootDSA operation. I said that this was a secure operation that we can only call it as a domain admin. I also said that we can just bypass it by changing some attributes. So what I thought was that Microsoft will probably restrict LDAP modify request from these attributes. And therefore, they will enforce that migrations will only be done by the RootDSA operation, which is secured. So I wanted to test if I'm really correct about the approach that Microsoft will go with. So I opened up my lab and I installed the patch. And I got back to the weak account, which has just privileges to create objects in an OU. And I created a new dMSA, and I tried linking this dMSA to the administrator account, like we did before. And I expected this to fail, because, again, I thought Microsoft will block LDAP rights to this attribute. But it didn't fail. So I was really surprised. I thought that I should try and authenticate with the dMSA. So I used Rubius. And I got an error. So the patch is working. I can still link the dMSA to any account, but I can no longer authenticate with the dMSA. So this is pretty weird, because normal dMSA authentication should work. So I was curious on what exactly they did, and I thought that the next place I should look on is KDC SVC DLL, which is the DLL that handles Kerberos tickets processing on the DC. So I opened up IDA, and I had a patched version of this DLL, and I had an unpatched version. So I also opened up BinDiff, and I got a list of almost 300 functions that appears in the patched version, but not in the unpatched one. So 300 is about, it's pretty much, it's just too much. So I tried just searching for dMSA, and I had luck, because I ended up with this list that has some very great function names. So we can see that there is a feature now that is called KDC dMSA verify link. So now I had a pretty good guess on what they did to fix it, and why I can no longer authenticate with my dMSA. So if we think about it, a normal migration should look like this. We have a dMSA, and we have a user, and we link the two. And the link is mutual. We have an attribute on the dMSA that we link it to the user, but we will also have an attribute on the user that we link it into the dMSA. What we just did is I had control over the dMSA, and I just linked the dMSA to the user. And this link is not mutual. So what the patch actually checks now, it checks to see if the link is mutual. And that means that we can no longer use BadSuccessor for privilege escalation. But if we have access on the user, if we have write access, and we can change the the attribute that takes care of the link, we can just link the user back to the dMSA, creating a mutual link, and now we can authenticate as the dMSA. Now, if we can authenticate with the dMSA, it means that we now can still get the pack of the user and the credentials of the user, even if the environment is patched. So, as I see it, BadSuccessor can still be used in two scenarios. Now, those two scenarios, it's not novel. There are different attacks that can be used instead in those scenarios, but they will generate different logs, and it will just look differently. So attackers might want to use it in order to evade detection. So I think it's worth that defenders would know about it too and will be aware. So the first scenario is user compromise. So let's say that we have an attacker. The attacker is low privileged in the domain, but they do have write access on another user that they want to compromise. They can now just write to the link attribute if they have control over an OU. And they just get the credentials and the pack of the user. They can do whatever they want as that user, but still while working with their dMSA. Their actions won't be shown as the user is doing it, but instead the dMSA. And the second scenario is when attacker already achieved domain compromise. One thing that is really common, that attackers are either doing DC sync or will try to copy the NTDSD, which is the Active Directory database. So now they have another alternative. They can execute BadSuccessor and just dump the credentials of the entire domain. Here we have a demo for that. So we are running as an attacker now. This user is a domain admin, and we will just invoke some script that will just dump the credentials of the entire domain, including KRBTGT and every other account. Yeah, so that is it about BadSuccessor. And now let's move forward to detection. So the first point is defenders should configure a SACL, and then every time that a new dMSA will be created, they will get a log. Now on the log, we have the OU in which the dMSA was created. So it's worth looking for dMSA that are being created in an anomalous OU, because usually they are meant to be created in specific OUs or containers. The second one is to check who created the dMSA. And also, defenders should configure a SACL for dMSA linkage. So once again, we have the dMSA, we have who linked the dMSA, and we have who is the superseded user. So defenders can look for dMSA that are being linked to highly privileged accounts or to accounts that are not being disabled in the same moment, because the normal migration process will disable the service account. So that can be a detection too. Another log, and this is a default one. So when we, this was a log for GMSA. So when we fetch the password for a GMSA, this log will be generated. But this log is also generated for dMSA. And in dMSA, we don't actually fetch the password. We just can't. But when we authenticate as the dMSA, when we request a TGT, the TGT will include the dMSA password. And apparently, the DC is fetching the password, and therefore this log will be created. Now, a pretty weird thing about this log is when we do it with dMSA, we have the caller seed field and the caller IP field. They will be populated with the correct values. But when we request a TGT for dMSA, this log will be generated, but the caller seed will have the seed of anonymous logon, and the caller IP will be blank. So I think it's pretty interesting. I think it's worth digging, but I just didn't have the time yet. But if anyone wants to look at it and let me know, I will be really happy to know what's going on here. So let's talk about conclusions. So new is not necessarily secure. So this is not just a new feature, it is a new security feature that was designed with security in mind. But still, this is abusable. It doesn't mean that there are no vulnerabilities there, and it's a good thing to keep that in mind. The second point is to never skip the obvious, because when I saw the packed merging thing, I talked with my manager, and he told me, well, maybe you can just change some attributes and then link the dMSA to another account. And I was like, no, that sounds way too easy. They probably blocked it. But I checked, and it was just that easy, and good thing that I listened to him. So the next point is to log and alert on dMSA creations links. I talked about that. And the final point is dMSA is a great new feature. I really encourage organizations to use it. I think it will, it can really improve the posture of your organization. Just migrating the legacy service accounts to dMSAs. I think it's really cool. Final point, so acknowledgement. So I want to say thank you to Garrett Foster. He had a great Black Hat talk in USA called Clustered Points of Failure Attacking Windows Server Failover Clusters. His presentation has some connections point to BadSuccessor, but unrelated to that, I really loved his talks, and I really loved his presentation, sorry. So I talked with him, and he gave me a lot of tips, and he really helped me with building this presentation. So I just wanted to say thank you to him. And another acknowledgement, I don't have a point for that, but thank you for my fiance who flew all the way here just to hear me speaking about a topic that she don't understand. So thank you. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have a few questions from the audience. First question, why was the criticality medium? Isn't this kind of bad? What are the conditions under which you cannot successfully execute this attack?
Yeah, okay, so this is a great question. You can execute this attack if the environment has at least one DC running Windows Server 2025. And that's it. There is no other requirements. If the environment has a 2025 DC, then and you have an access on an OU, you can just compromise the entire domain. Microsoft said that this is considered as not as a low privileges because by default users don't have access on OUs. I don't think this is really connected to the reality because I looked in organizations and over 91% of them, of the environments I checked, had low privileged user, non-tier 0, that had access on OUs. So I just disagree with Microsoft severity, but that's fine, I guess.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Next question, could you repeat the attack precondition for starting the dMSA migration by changing the attributes? As far as I understood, the bar is very low, which makes a moderate severity assignment by Microsoft look weird. I guess people are really hung up on the severity.
Yeah, yeah. So it's. Let me see the question. Sorry, I
Yeah,
didn't
repeat the
understand the
attack
stuff.
precondition.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I just talked about the account precondition. We need to have Windows Server 2025 DC and control over an OU.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last question. This really. Ooh, they changed them. This really looks like secrets-dump.py for the future. How's detection nowadays in identity security tools based on your experience?
Based on my experience, there are great tools for detection for identity attacks. I actually worked for a company that does this, and yeah, I think yeah.
So they exist.
Yeah, they exist. There are amazing tools. I don't want to promote and stuff, but there are amazing tools, and there is also we have secrets dump, but someone also did BadSuccessor key dump or something like that. So we also have that. Yeah.
Okay, I think we're all good with questions.
Okay.
Thank you again, Yuval. Another round of applause for you.
Amazing. Thank you so much.